It's time for the Voice of Reason podcast. Here are your hosts, Sean Phillips, Andy Van Beber, and Travis Kirkendall.
And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Voice of Reason podcast. My name is Andy Van Beber. That's Travis Kirkendall.
Yes, it is.
We are 2/3 of the Voice of Reason podcast. We are coming to you live from various parts of the United States.
We do have a guest tonight.
Oh,
Lupo,
look, and
which will be on the show as well.
Yep, walking the dog while we're doing the show. That's always, you multitask. That's just awesome right there. But today is October 24th, the day before payday. I'm so happy, living off of crumbs and everything else. But hey, we're
get paid Wednesdays too.
Yeah, well, we get paid on the 25th and the 14th. So yay for payday.
Nice, you really did it, man.
Yep, we made it. Anyway, but oh man, so how's your weekend? How did everything go this weekend?
Our weekend was exceptionally laid back. It started out Saturday morning. We were at the hospital. We thought it was time. We thought he was coming, and basically, we could have had the baby that day if we wanted to. But they said, she's not 39 weeks yet, so we really don't want to do this.
Right.
We'd rather it naturally happen. But the way they explained it to us, I thought for sure I was going back that night. I was like, oh my God, any hour now I'm gonna have to drive her back to the hospital. And it's Tuesday now, so
yeah. Well, good. Well,
other than that, we went home. We slept the rest of the day. It's again, we thought we were going back that night, and then Sunday, same thing.
Yep.
Slept all day. It was amazing.
We had so last week we had the haunted house. We had the Halloween dance last week, and then quick shout out to everybody. All supporters. I know some of our listeners supported us with the Hunter Stribling disc golf tournament on Saturday, which was fantastic. We had a great turnout, and we had a lot of sponsors. So thanks to everybody who took part in that. We're so happy about that. And then the rest of my weekend was pretty laid back as well. I got to, rest, and I did break my cardinal sin, and I graded papers on Saturday afternoon, but quarter ended on Friday, so we're already 1/4 of the way through the school year already. So makes for things to be interesting, to say the least. But funny side story, I didn't even tell you this beforehand. So right now, and I don't know if this is a thing or not, but one of my favorite students, and she's a senior this year. I won't mention her name, but she posted on Snapchat, and she and I had this debate today. Helen Keller is a fraud.
Okay, never heard that take before.
What do you mean Helen Keller's a fraud? And she's
what was her argument?
Well, she's like, you can't be blind and deaf, and how did she learn how to? She wrote 14. She knows she wrote 14 books, and how do you know? And she flew a plane. Well, I was like, she didn't fly it alone. She had somebody with her, But it was so funny just to. Oh my God, I was like, okay, I'm having this conversation with. And then one of our teachers, and I won't say what teacher it was, but one of our teachers came in and said, oh yeah, I think it's a fraud too. I was like, oh my, younger teacher. But I was like, oh my God, you've got to be kidding me. Helen Keller is not a fraud. Oh my goodness. So.
I could see it.
I was at wit's end. I could not believe that somebody honestly is like, oh yeah, Helen Keller's a fraud. I was like, okay, well. So with that being said, we, the Congress of the United States.
Speaking of frauds,
The Congress of the United States of America is a gift that keeps on giving and giving and giving and giving to podcasters like us. So if you haven't heard today,
definitely have plenty of material to talk about. We don't have to really think too much about what's the topic this week. I don't know. Google what happened in the house this week.
Well, so I'm looking at when I sent this out on our group chat. So today, so at 10:46 or 11:46, I got the thing that Tom Emmer, who's a Republican, very moderate, very appealing to a lot of people, was their third nominee for House Speaker. That was at 11:47. Then at 3:45, Emmer drops out of the U.S. Speaker House race, what
was his reasoning for dropping out? I didn't
read
the full article.
So they did a roll.
I thought he had won the nomination.
They did a roll call vote at the Republican caucus, I guess, that they had. And here's what Reuters said. He abandoned his bid to lead the House of Representatives on Tuesday, just hours after his fellow Republicans nominated him as the party infighting that has paralyzed Congress for 3 weeks showed no sign of life. But what was it? He said, "I have stepped aside." Because they did the roll call vote, and there were 26. There were 26 Republicans in their caucus meeting, in their private meeting, that voted no. And so he's like, "Nope, not going to do it." So we're back to where we started at again. Nobody.
Yeah. And what's our deadline date?
November next week, November 4th.
Yeah, we're screwed.
That is when the budget, the temporary deadline, or the temporary line for the what do you call it, the debt ceiling expires. So you can only watch this happen so much. And I was talking to some of my coworkers. Well, let me back up. So at the disc golf tournament on Saturday, I had the pleasure of disc golfing. We were paired against former guest and listener of the Voice of Reason podcast, Alex Ellison. And I said, "Hey," "I've got a job opportunity for you." He said, "Oh yeah, what's that?" And I said, "Speaker of the House." He's like, "Nope."
What's his take on it?
Basically the same thing.
He doesn't mind us sharing it.
Basically, he's like, these Republicans are so dysfunctional right now that they are. He's like, I don't see how they can win in 24. And I was like, I actually don't see how Biden could win in 24, to tell you the truth. But this is what this far right Freedom Caucus wants. This is what Jim Jordan wants. This is what Matt Gaetz wants. This is what Marjorie Taylor Greene wants. They want a government shutdown, and they want total chaos, so they can benefit from the situation.
How do they benefit exactly, other than like they get more say in what they want? Like how do they necessarily benefit from this?
This is just my take on it. I think there is a huge amount of backdoor deals that are going on. Okay, we talked about last week how the Republicans are split amongst 4 different groups. I think that there is a between this Freedom Caucus and this other a little bit right of moderate caucus that are working together to say, look, we don't want to make any deals with the Democrats, and we don't want, and basically they've said in so many words that they don't want an appeaser, which is what they saw Kevin McCarthy as, was an appeaser, which is, basically the dirty term for someone who knows how to compromise, who brings the sides together.
A rhino.
Yeah, and so this Emmer guy was going to be. I mean, he was one who was touted as one who could bring both sides together.
That's
And
what I had read up on.
well, and so my question is, why are you opposed to that?
From what I had seen, one of the big reasons the Freedom Caucus, I think it was, that was totally against him is because he was against Trump in the January 6th thing. He voted
Yeah, he
to
voted to verify the election.
see, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. When are they going to let this go? I mean, seriously, when are they going to let it go? They have got to get to the point of where they've got to that ship has sailed. I mean, you're not.
No, I agree with you. I don't know. It's really holding them back, one. And then two, I mean, we're getting to a point now where, like, look, at the end of the day, like, I'll play with devil's advocate on this one. Like, I get the far right's push for, like, hey, we need less spending. I get it. I think most Americans would agree that we need to cut spending. We spend way too much, and the money we do spend gets misallocated all the time. I get that. But at the end of the day, we still have to govern. You still have to do your job.
Which we're not doing at all.
No, they can't even decide who their speaker is going to be, which is just absolutely ridiculous that that's going to be the reason why we shut down.
Well,
So it's like, yeah, it's at the end of the day, you have you were there for a reason. Do your job. You have to govern. Like you have to.
Well, and here's something else to take in consideration. With all of this money that's being promised to Israel, not one dime of that's going to go anywhere until the House signs off on it, and they can't sign off on it without a speaker. Okay, all this new aid that they're promising
there's mixed feelings on that too, because some people would say that's kind of a blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of to the point now where, like, hey, I'm kind of tired of this funding foreign wars, and I'm getting pretty burnt out on it myself.
Mm-hmm.
Just my opinion and perspective on it. So in a way, I'm kind of like, okay, if we can hold it off as long as possible, like, great. I'm sorry, Ukraine. I'm tired of it. The Israel thing, I'm tired of it. But I also get the perspective too, like, well, they're our ally, and we got to support them, and it's a bad look for the U.S. if we don't support them. We don't support our allies. But I think we're getting to the point where we can't afford to be this world police force much longer. And we have so many problems at home. That's like, I'm all for us supporting other countries if we support ourselves first. And we have so many issues that are just getting avoided.
Mm-hmm.
That's my biggest frustration. Like, we just completely avoid the issues we have here. You don't hear anything about immigration anymore. The fentanyl deaths and the drug overdoses is never talked about anymore. The housing crisis that we're about to be facing, people can't afford to buy homes anymore.
With an interest
the inflation
rate
that Americans are dealing with. I don't know. I saw like my billboard by my place is like almost 9% for a 30-year mortgage. It's ridiculous.
How much?
It's almost 9%. It was like 8.5%.
So, oh man, now's
the bank was advertising by my house.
Hey folks, now's the time to invest in CDs at your bank. Now's the time to invest.
Yeah, but you almost. Well, I'm not going to go there.
I tell you what, for what we're having right now, for what we're having right now and what's going on, we don't have, and I said this last week, we don't have too much left to offer. I mean, American citizens, I found it kind of ironic. Let me go back on this. I find it kind of ironic when when you look at the majority, to talk about the situation is, when you talk about the majority of Palestinians don't give a rat's hairy butt about Hamas. The majority of Jews in Israel are not Zionists. They don't believe in, they just want to live.
Dude, the amount of people that are against Netanyahu and want him out because of this whole ordeal. Yeah. And then the news won't tell you how divided Israel actually is on this issue.
And then the same thing can be said of us here. The amount if you were to shut down the media giants of Fox and CNN and MSNBC and all, I think you would get a majority. You would get maybe I won't say majority, but you would get a large percentage of Americans who would say, "We're tired of this crap, and we're ready to move on." I mean, the
we kind of talked about how we were going to start watching major news sources to kind of like back up the claim of like, oh, the media is not talking about this. Well, we actually have to start watching the media. And I've paid mostly attention to Fox News since this issue's broken out. And they are very much pro-Israel, beating the war drums. Like, I haven't seen CNN or their take on it, but like it seems like everyone's invested in this war. And like,
no, CNN's the
the
same
U.S.
way.
just has to do something. We have to do something. Like, you have these analysts and these professionals and specialists that come on and basically say we need to go to war. There was one guy calling out. Remember the beginning we talked about this. Like, Republican lawmakers are basically calling for all-out war with Iran. Which, granted, yes, there's some evidence there, and we can get into the strikes you and I were talking about later on military bases. But I don't think that's where the majority of Americans are for. I don't think majority of Americans want another war. I certainly don't.
No. I think war.
But
this is kind of leading into, and we can tie all this together. For those of you who are wondering what tonight's topic point is about, is basically about this. Is we called tonight's show "Living in a Kleptocracy." So, if you were to look at and we're going to tie all this together, so just bear with me here. So, when you talk about a kleptocracy, okay, it's also it's in some circles it's been referred to as a thievocracy. Government whose leaders, kleptocrats, use political power to expropriate the wealth of the people and the land they govern by misappropriating government funds at the expense of the wider population. Okay?
United States.
Yeah. So when you look at situations such as what we are in, okay, what is our benefit? Let's talk about what is our benefit of actually going into a war on foreign soil.
I can tell you right now, if you're invested in Raytheon and Boeing and your defense contractor organizations that are public companies, there's some benefit there.
You're making a killing.
Just so happens that I think many lawmakers may or may not be invested in these same companies. Just throwing it out there. I know BlackRock's got heavy investments in those companies. But that's a rabbit hole we are not going down tonight.
Well, you look at all the, I mean, one way that we can look at this and you mentioned insider trading. Okay, so many different politicians in the last year have been uncovered about all of this insider trading and all this insider information that they have within the country, within the stock market, and how many millions of dollars that they're making.
And can I just say with that, I will give the Freedom Caucus credit on one thing here. That has been one of their points. They have been calling for the end of insider trading, like saying that congressional members shouldn't be able to trade stocks. I've seen Getz talk about it, so I'm assuming the rest of the Freedom Caucus has been for it. So I'll give them some credit on that one.
But in that same light, though,
will it go anywhere though? I don't.
In that same light, okay. If you hadn't heard about, I think we mentioned this, and I ran across this stat, and I think I remember us mentioning this before. But on the day that Trump was sworn in at his inauguration committee paid the Trump organization $1.5 million for services rendered on that day. And as he was in office, like when they would have when they would have these meetings, or they would have Christmas parties, or they would have, there was a couple times that Trump proposed having a G7 summit at in Miami at his Miami resort.
Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, and so he's some of the what was it? It said oh well, there was another thing there. It said 200 and while he was in office, there were 200 and some odd different meetings that were held on Trump properties, government meetings held on Trump properties. Okay, and you have that. So so one of Joe Biden's thing that he ran on was okay. I'm gonna flag on kleptocracy. I'm going to go after all of these, you know.
Hypocrite.
Well, yeah, because it's hard when you've got a large number of members within your party who are, who are benefiting from, all of the, all of these investments and everything. Joe Biden
the
actually
donors and
yeah, I mean Joe Biden. So he actually one of the guys that he nominated, and I had his name written down. What was it? Where was that? Where's that? So he actually had a guy who was going to work within the National Security Administration. This guy's name was Jake Sullivan, and this guy promised to rally our allies to combat corruption and kleptocracy. And he said we're going to fight illicit finance at home and abroad, and this is going to be a core plank of our administration's foreign policy for the middle class. Okay, and when you look at and when you look at the top, some of the most corrupt governments in the world, and how some of these guys are making. I mean, some of these world leaders are making billions of dollars. And in one instance, I had read there's some even we have actually helped make that we've helped these guys funnel money into offshore bank accounts. Last 2021. Oh, this other stat that I had said that we of our out of our GDP, 331 billion dollars was in kleptocratic schemes. Can you? I mean,
I'm not.
what
I'm not surprised.
Well, we had and they talked about one of the most, and so this one of the most notorious kleptocrats this is a poor African country, but Equatorial Guinea, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce this president's name, but this guy. So we sent people over to, and this is going to lead into my next thing. This guy in Equatorial Guinea took money from the Chinese government to build a maritime base on Equatorial Guinea's Atlantic coast, so China could have a base on the Atlantic Ocean. Okay, and they're not talking about this. Another thing that brought this up for me too was that, and I think I posted this to our group chat earlier this week. The state of Arkansas. Last week, the governor signed a bill passed through the Arkansas legislature that is going to force China to sell all of their land holdings within the state of Arkansas.
Good,
because there was connections between this. It was one of their. It was actually a seed company that they were going to start there, and they had bought millions of acres within Arkansas, and all of the stuff that was going on within China and with what they were doing. Arkansas was like, we don't want to be any part of this. We don't want to have anything to do with this. And so when you look at kleptocracy,
there was another. I want to jump in really quick. There was another state. They didn't pass a law for this. But I think I want to say they did something about it and told them they couldn't do it. But China, again, they had purchased a bunch of land, but this was like within 10 miles of a U.S. military base. I forget what state this was, And they made the same thing. They said it was going to be, I think, the same thing. It was supposed to be a seed company or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
or some kind of farming development or whatever. And then when they got to looking at like what was actually the infrastructure and all the plans, they're like, no, you're not doing that. And I think the state shut that down, and they ended up not being able to develop that land, but that by that military base. But yeah, I forget what state that was, but yeah, interesting that they've been doing that.
So,
I think that should be a U.S. wide policy.
and the seed company actually was a former American seed company. Northrop King Seed Company says it has 2 years to divest the property in Craighead County, Arkansas. And it said Northrop is a subsidiary of Syngenta Seeds, which is owned by China National Chemical Company, or Kim China. So, you know, the whole China is, one government that you have to watch out for, I think, is China's trying to play themselves, and we've had this discussion before on here as well too. China is trying to play themselves as the, do I want to say a global good guy? Are they trying to I mean, do you see them as trying to rebrand themselves through?
Oh, for sure. Look what they've done with Ukraine, with Russia.
Yeah,
Look what they just did recently with the Middle East. They sent 6 warships there to, I'm sure that had something to do with it. They're calling for a two-state system with, they're trying to work that deal out, and basically they're in agreement with Russia on how that should be, and they're trying to be like the policymakers of that whole situation.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're trying to get that way.
So the so who would you say who would you say tops this won't come as any surprise, but who do you think is the number one most corrupt government in the world? Who is by ranked by who was this? This was by U.S. News and World Report. Who do you think ranked amongst 2023's most corrupt countries? Just wild guess.
2023?
This year. Who do you think ranked as the most corrupt country?
Oh God, the most corrupt?
Yeah. Just wild guess.
Is it a big country? Like, is
Oh
it
yeah,
like
oh
a?
yeah.
It's probably that country.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say China right off the bat.
No,
But
but
there's a lot of African countries that are corrupt as hell.
number one is
Venezuela,
Russia. Russia
I can
is
see that
ranked
too.
as the most corrupt country in the world. And it's no reason as to why. It's because of the fact that the Russian government is in their connection with all the Russian multi-billionaires, the oligarchs, who run everything from oil to these what they call, they're basically bonanza farms, these massive, million dollar, $1 billion farms, and these guys who in shipping and in trade and in manufacturing. And I mean, you think in manufacturing in the United States is in the hands of the few. In Russia, it is in the hands of the very few, which is one of the reasons why Putin stays in power. It's I scratch your back, you scratch mine. Okay, and so then number two would be Iran, because of everything from the basically, with your nuclear development. There was a note about Iran. So there, where was it at? So like when you look at their GDP, what their country produces in a year, 389 billion. Okay, but the average salary of a Iranian citizen, $18,075. Okay, where's the other? Where's the rest of the money going? Okay, that's just one. When you go on and you look at where the majority of their money is spent at. Anyone?
Government?
Power sources.
Oh.
Nuclear energy. Okay? And when you I mean, you don't have to be the head checkout clerk at Walmart to figure this stuff out.
I would argue North Korea is a little more corrupt.
Oh, I would too. And let me see, where are they at on
Their
this?
people are starving. The average, I just Googled it. Average wage in North Korea is estimated to be around $47 per month. And their people are literally starving.
Yeah. But to close out this list,
If you've never seen that podcast on Rogan where he interviews that woman,
the one who escaped
just insane.
Yes. And
insane. I don't see people raising flags for that.
I need to finish her book. I can't remember her name right now, but I have her book.
I can't either.
I have her book on my audio on my audio book list. But the top
why the world sits by and lets that happen, but we're so up in arms about. Sorry, it really makes me so mad with that situation.
So you have number 3 is Colombia, number 4 is Mexico, number 5 Zimbabwe, number 6 El Salvador, number 7 Myanmar, which is a Far Eastern country, Belarus, there's another former Soviet bloc country, Bangladesh,
I could see that.
Bangladesh, and Lebanon. Okay, and
I can't believe they didn't put Venezuela in that.
So the least corrupt country in the world, number 1 country is Switzerland. Number 2, Canada. Number 3, Sweden. Number 4,
Canada?
Yeah. Number 4, Australia. Number 5, the Netherlands. Number 6, Denmark. Number 7, Finland. Number 8, New Zealand. Number 9, Belgium. And number 10, Norway. As your least corrupt. Okay? Part of this comes from, what makes these guys so is the fact that when they talk about these countries, they also rank amongst the top 10 transparent countries where they let people know, okay, here's where your money's going. This is what your money's being spent on. All right? When you look at and we mentioned earlier, as we are getting closer to our budget ceiling deadline, okay, the amount of money that we are spending and what we are spending money on, all right. One of the biggest things from the 90s, and this is going back whenever you would know who this is. I can't think of the GAC, the Government Accountability, GAO, the Government Accountability Office. Okay.
Yeah, we looked into their stuff before.
So the GAO, you can go to the GAO, and that's supposed to be our mode of transparency for the American government. The GAO uncovered it was in the late 90s that a toilet, like for example, they spent $50,000 on a toilet seat on Air Force One. Okay, $10,000 for a hammer on a commercial, on a government contract job. I forgot where it was at, but $10,000 for a hammer, $50,000 for
money laundering.
Well, I can go to Walmart right now and I can buy a toilet seat for $20. Okay, and
I think we can all agree they didn't buy a hammer for $10,000.
No,
they didn't buy a toilet seat for $50,000.
So what the amount of things that we're spending money on is, this was my where was it at? And so some of the things that we're spending money on, the fact that we're spending money on this, it's an insult to the American people because taxpayer dollars are paying for these projects that are being funneled into something else. Okay. By the way, this is not anything that's new. Okay. When you go back to the late 1800s, early 1900s, your biggest three cities that had the most corrupt governments in the United States were New York. I just went blank. New York, Chicago, and it was Kansas City. Okay, New York had, and for those of you who didn't know, New York had what was called they had a political machine, Tammany Hall, run by a guy by the name of Marcy Tweed. Marcy Tweed would get he was the political boss for New York City, and they would do such projects as, okay, we need to build a new city hall. Okay, well, this new city hall is going to cost us $10 million, when in actuality it only cost $4 million, and they pocketed the other $6. So stuff like this has been going on for years, but now we're becoming more sophisticated with how we cover it up. All right, so when you look at the most ridiculous government spending that we have done, and I mean, there are tons of accountability and watchdog groups that are out there. Some of these things that you have to know that somebody has to be on the take. Somebody has to be on the take. Okay. What was the one that was, okay. So this was in I remember some of the criticism about this but these routers that were installed, we had this movement in the early 2000s to get our internet up to speed here, and you probably when you were still in school. Okay. So to get rural schools up to internet speeds, to make, and this was under Obama, a 24 was it 24 yeah $24 million spent just to put routers, and you can buy these big block routers that would, you run multiple telephone lines in, $8,000. Okay. To me, when I look at that, I'm thinking, okay, these routers, and they said each router that they were saying cost $22,600 for each one of these routers that they supposedly did. Okay. The study of beach erosion in the state of California, which, to establish a timetable if and when California would actually break off from the American coastline. There's a government study for that. University of Wisconsin study on the effect of methane gas emission from cow manure and how it affects the ozone layer. Okay, renewable grant. There's so, you scroll down this list and it's just like, oh, this one's great. No, it's only $99,000, but they actually have they actually include the website where this is. So this was appropriated to the United States Department of Agriculture. Vodka, bourbon, and brandy paid for by taxpayers. In spite of the robust demand for alcoholic beverages, U.S. Department of Agriculture awarded a $99,000 grant to the New Clayton Distillery Company, a New York distillery, in 2012. Using taxpayer money, owners bought a copper still and stainless steel vodka column. The distillery believes that the grant would cover 2/3 of the equipment cost. So, who's making money off of this? The other one that really shocked me was that the U.S. Department of Agriculture and the Department of Commerce spent over $1.3 million to help the world's largest snack food maker build a Greek yogurt factory in New York. Last year, PepsiCo Incorporated earned net revenues of over $66 billion. Looking to expand their earnings, the corporation teamed up with a German company, Theo Mueller Group, to sell premium yogurt products in the United States. And a $1.3 million grant was given to PepsiCo, who last year made $66 billion. Of
course.
To build a yogurt factory.
Ridiculous.
So, this is what a kleptocracy is. This is, some of, and, foundation, oh, yay, I didn't see this one. I just now saw this. One of my, so I use this in my classroom, actually the Foundation for Economic Education. if you don't know this organization and you want to know about government rate, fee.org. Check these guys out. This is probably one of the most, in my opinion, as a guy who loves highlighting government corruption.
Didn't we look at this website a couple episodes
yes,
ago?
we have looked.
This was the one we referenced?
Yes, this is a great website, and this was posted. So this was posted not too many days ago. So forgive me. I'm reading this for the first time. Some of the new.
Yeah, I remember
the Social Security Administration's $25 billion a year supplemental security income program. Almost 250,000 children qualify for SSI checks because they can't participate in age-appropriate activities. Worse, thousands of prisoners in the U.S. prison system get SSI checks relating to their quote-unquote alleged disabilities, costing taxpayers in fiscal year 2022 $20 million.
Yep.
To guys in prison. Let that sink in just for a second. Okay?
I wonder, do they have a number yet on the total amount spent on the migrants that are getting the check?
The $2,000 a month, the $2,000 a month thing?
Yeah, but not only that, the money that goes into the housing too, and the food allowance and all that. Like, I wonder if there's a full number for that. Like, just that alone. I doubt it's up there yet, since kind of I think that shit started this year, but I'm curious to see what that number is going to be.
Well, we're living in a time where government waste is, to me, what
I would argue we are, because you taught me in history about like the Gilded Age. I would argue this is 100% the next Gilded Age, if it hasn't been for many years now.
And for those who don't, that's a great point. Mark Twain coined a term, the Gilded Age, back at the turn of the century. And he basically said, this is how I explain what something that's gilded is something that has a corrupt base but has a glittery surface, a shiny surface to it. Okay, so at its base, I mean, if I was to say, okay, I've got a pile of dog poop right here, okay, and I'm going to put gold fleck glitter on it, okay, and
this is the same way you explain it to me.
And you can put so much on there that maybe you can't even, it's a pile of dog crap. But all the glitter and everything on top makes everything look so great. But underneath, what do you have? You have a pile of dog crap. All right?
Still smells like it.
Yeah. And what we're seeing, I think that's what makes you, I'll ask you first, Trev, what makes you think that we're going through that now? What makes you think that?
Right off the bat, you have leaders, I'll just call the president out right off the bat, saying that, oh, things are great. Our economy's at all-time highs. We have record number of jobs, record this, all these great things. But then you see in real life that's just not the case. I just don't see it with we're controlling inflation. No, we're not. And I just see that not just him, but leaders across the board. They just, oh, things are great. Things are awesome. It's never been a better time. And it's like normal everyday people are like, no, it's not. So there's that. There's obviously the insider trading in Congress, the corrupt leaders that we have, all the shady stuff that goes into the government spending and like the bills that they try to pass and the stuff they try to hide in those bills to get funding to God knows what. I mean, look at and let's go back to Biden and the stuff that has come out with the whole laptop BS and the money that they've gotten from foreign influence, all of Trump's mishandlings, whether you believe him or not. I mean, the list just goes on and on. That's just surface level stuff.
When you mentioned earlier a number of problems that we're not addressing, and I remembered a article,
all that stuff too.
An article I had read earlier this summer, and I just pulled it back up. the Pew Research Organization, which is a nonpartisan survey group. Okay, so I'll just go down I'll do the top 10 top 10 issues that that both Republican and Democrats list. People who voted Republican and Democrats list as the top 10 problems that aren't being addressed. Okay. Number one, obvious, and you said inflation. Okay. Number two, the affordability of health care. Number three, the ability of Democrats and Republicans to work together. Number four, drug addiction. Number five, gun violence. Number six, violent crime. Number seven, the federal budget deficit. Number eight, the state of moral values. Number nine, illegal immigration. Number 10, the quality of public K-12 schools.
And almost none of that has been on the news recently.
And
look at the war overseas.
And the National Education Organization, who maps out government or maps out United States test scores. This was I just got a hold of this. I saw this on Facebook today. No, I didn't see it on Facebook. It was on CNN when you were talking. I was looking through CNN and they reported this today that reading and math have reached the lowest numbers in 2 or 3 decades. Our overall test scores. And
remember that TikTok that was it you or Sean that showed us?
Yes,
that teacher
it was.
Like, look, I have.
Yes, and they addressed, and they actually CNN talked about those, and it showed those TikToks of those teachers who were saying all that stuff. They highlighted those teachers and how so many people now have started piggybacking off of this. Our point being overall is this: we have bigger fish to fry right now, but we're so split in about 7 billion different directions. My dad used a phrase that was called, you had too many irons and too many fires. Okay? What I mean by that is, here we are, and you mentioned the Gilded Age, the second Gilded Age. Okay, so everything as great as what we say it is? No, I mean you've got this kleptocracy that's going on. You have government officials who are benefiting and who are not doing their job that they were sworn to do, which was to protect the United States Constitution and to get out there and provide for people and to make a better America. Not doing it. Inflation, I don't even know what our inflation, I'm sure we're still hovering around 7% or in that neighborhood somewhere. Or up 7 to 10%, I would say, is a safe number. I'm
not sure what it is currently, but I know it's right around that ballpark you just gave.
I know that healthcare is ridiculous. You want to talk about government, people who are in bed with ewe other? The government and Big Pharma are definitely in bed with each other. Okay? The fact that our school insurance, and I refuse to get our school insurance, and it's not just Clopton School, it's schools across the state of Missouri, where you have a $5,000 deductible. A $5,000 deductible. That's ridiculous.
What a joke.
What a joke. I mean, you're paying the first $5,000. I don't know about you, but I don't have $5,000 laying around. Okay? And
no.
Then
no, I don't.
And we're seeing the ability of Democrats. Why are Democrats and Republicans fighting? Because they want to be heard, and this is getting them news time, and this is leading to, I'm sure somewhere down the line, this is leading to campaign donations that'll benefit them in the long run later on, because they can what we used to call, historians call, waving the bloody flag. How they've, they're going to use their fighting record. I fought the Republicans on this. I fought the Democrats on this. Support me in the next election. Okay, so they're all waving the bloody flag. You talked about drug addiction, fentanyl. Fentanyl is, in Pike County, I guarantee you, if I looked hard enough, I could find somebody I could get some from. I could get it. I've heard of one of my kids told me they know of a guy that they can buy fentanyl laced vapes from in Pike County.
Insane. And
what are we doing? Nothing.
And I've heard rumors. I don't know if it's true. I don't live there anymore, and I'm not trying to talk bad on the area, but I've heard that cocaine is
it's making them huge.
much more popular now than it was when I was in high school. When I was in high school, cocaine wasn't a thing for my class. It just wasn't. Um, it just blows my mind to hear that that's like a common thing now. And I don't know if that's true, just what I've heard. Um, but wow, you know.
Well,
and you definitely can't trust that drug anymore. Good Lord.
And when we talk about, so if you go to the, we've talked about the debt clock. So right now,
where are we at? The doomsday clock, more like it.
What is this? The secret money create. Is this did the site get hacked? So if you go to usdebtclock.org, there's a tin man on the site that says money creation is a scam only a wizard could love. What?
I wonder if like Anonymous or someone hacked it. Yeah, I think it got hacked.
Did you see that? Are you seeing this?
Yeah, someone hacked it.
Somebody hacked Somebody has hacked usdebtclock.org.
I mean, they're not wrong.
And it says the secret window is open Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays.
Yeah, this is real.
Oh my God. This is fantastic. Oh my.
Wait, where does it say the Tuesdays, Thursdays thing?
Up in the upper right-hand corner. Up in the upper right-hand corner. Oh my! Let me see if I've got it.
I see it now.
Let me see if I've got an internet.
I see it now.
Oh, where's my
internet? That's hilarious.
Oh, hold on a second. Let me get my.
You think they added that?
No,
that can't be something they added. There's no way.
Hold on. Let me see if I can get this. Here we go, folks. Here, this is. I'm doing this on the fly right now. For those of you who are watching or watch the podcast, or those of you who are not watching the podcast and listening, this may not be up, but it's like. So this is what I'm looking at. This is what you're seeing. Is this right here?
Yeah, you're able to show them.
Yeah, this is money creation is a scam only a wizard could love. Oh, fantastic, freaking-tastic. So right now, aside from that hack, that is brilliant. Oh my God, I can't get over that. So right now, though, the U.S. national debt is at $33 trillion. We're ever so close. We are roughly about 34 billion away from hitting the $34 trillion mark. So at the rate it's going right now, man, that is awesome. I cannot get over that. That is so cool. Oh man. So anyway,
largest budget items. Look at this.
Yeah.
824 billion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that number is going to go up.
So you have 824 billion on defense and war, 1.3 is that 1.3 let's see, is that trillion? 1.3 trillion on Social Security? Is that right?
Yeah, 1.3 trillion. Yeah.
1.4 trillion on Medicare and Medicaid. And the interest on the debt, I can't see it past the Tin Man right now. But
interest I see interest per adult.
Yeah. So
Jesus.
I've got it. Pardon me, folks, just for a second as I take a photo of this for Snapchat. This is remarkable.
Yeah.
So
pretty wild statistic.
Yeah.
I want to clarify something I stated just a minute ago.
Go ahead.
Kind of talking about when I said I'm kind of tired of U.S. interfering with wars and stuff, and it does come back to I feel like we really do it. America needs to be first before we help others. It just has to be, in my opinion. It just has to be. That being said, we were talking about this before. There's been 24 American soldiers, I believe, that have been wounded since the Gaza-Israel war started. And what that is we still have bases in Iraq and Syria.
Right.
And the Pentagon released this news.
Nobody.
Iranian-backed. No, I want to clarify that too.
Okay.
Iranian-backed militias and terrorist groups have been doing drone attacks on bases. And from what I'm reading, they've been minor wounds, thank God.
Mm-hmm.
But nonetheless, there's been attack on our troops from these. And the Pentagon's saying Iranian-backed. So there's that. And I was reading, this is on NBC News. This is reported. NBC News, AP. There was a couple others. Now, do they do it? Do they talk about this in their live broadcast? I have no idea. So it could be underreported. And it's just something they post online.
Mm-hmm.
When you have instances like this, though, you kind of do got to take a step back and say, okay, what's the play? Do we just let our troops keep getting blasted? I mean, they're there for a reason. You can't just yank them out with no plan. We saw how that worked out in Afghanistan. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what comes to that situation, and I haven't seen the president address it. The last I've seen anything of the president, he was on the beach with his wife. I'm sure
Yeah.
you've seen that
Yeah. Yeah.
post going around, which
Yeah.
of all times you can do that. I mean, come on, man. Like the burden of leadership is to be a leader and be in those stressful situations. And give me one sec. What do you need? Oh, sorry about that. But like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're a leader. It's your job to be stressed out in this time. Like, I want you to succeed. I'm not praying for Biden's downfall by any means, but like, he should be stressed. He should be in that Oval Office on a phone right now, every minute on a minute, talking to somebody, making stuff happen. He shouldn't be kicked back on a beach right now when there's a potential World War III breaking out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And this concerns me. This report that came out from the Pentagon, on top of everything else that's going on. I mean, it seems like Israel just gets worse every damn day. And now that the Pentagon's saying like, yeah, this is Iranian-backed militia groups, and we're seeing increased protests around the world. We have them here at home. We were talking about the Minneapolis
Minneapolis
protest.
had a protest.
We just had one in Skokie, Illinois, which for those who don't know, Skokie is a northern Chicago. I wouldn't even call it. I guess you'd call it suburb. It's Cook County.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a pretty bad protest there, and apparently a fight broke out. And I had heard a gunshot was fired. No one was hurt apparently, but yeah, some concerning stuff going on with that. And
at the root of all of this, I want to.
You kind of got to draw a line of like, okay, of the war, no war thing. There's got to be like, we can't just let troops get shot up overseas. You know what I mean?
I think at the end of the day, Travis, what we have to look at is all of this, from war to government spending to all of the cut. It all goes back to the definition that I read at the beginning of the show. Being run by a group, our government being run by people who are wanting to see how much blood they can get out of this stone. Okay, how much blood can they? How much money can they bleed out of the country into their own pockets? We are in.
Sadly, that's the only thing that makes sense to me anymore. Like when I look at like the policy decisions and like the language that's being said by politicians, it's like, why would you want this? What reason would you want this? Like,
so there's an old Latin political.
Where's diplomacy?
There is an old Latin governmental phrase. It's called cui bono. Okay, cui bono means who benefits. Who benefits? When you look at all of the different things that are going on within our society, like you said, from everything from policy, different government policy to the debt, to fighting in wars, to going to what's going on in Iran, what's going on in Iraq, what's going on in Israel. The question you always have to ask yourself is cui bono. Who is benefiting? When you look at when you look at big pharma, when you look at government spending, and you look at all these cui bono, who is benefiting? Because it's not the American people. It's not the American people. We've established that. And I hate to have like 3 downer weeks in a row of the podcast, but I just tripped upon.
Well, that's been the majority of the news, though, and it's like it doesn't seem like there's been any solutions, and every week just seemed to be progressively worse.
Yeah, But yeah, I like the way that you put that though tonight. Thank you for sending me down that rabbit hole of the Gilded Age and
I mean, that's just what I thought of, and I remembered your
man,
lesson on it. I was like,
man,
God, this is very reminiscent of that.
you may have just encouraged me to write an opinion article for something. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Well,
cool. I'm glad you do. I hope you do it.
Well,
I'd share it.
Thanks, man. Hey, but another fine show tonight. We hope to.
Lupo approves.
Yes, look at that. That is a massive beast right there. That is a massive beast. But we want to thank everybody for joining us across our different sources tonight. Thank you for the compliments we got. We got a lot of compliments this week. I shared one with the boys. Thank you for all those. I know a large number of you guys listen on Spotify. Somebody was telling me the other day that they have like a 65-minute commute to work, and they listen to us. They look forward to Wednesdays where they can listen to us on the way to work. So we hope we made your drive to work a little bit more, go a little bit faster today. But thank you for all of that. I'm sorry I've lacked on the TikTok stuff, but we're going to get more. We're going to get our TikTok up and going back again. Continue to help us in that area too. Like and share. I don't know if you saw it. You can't see it on my screen, but I have a little like and subscribe thing over here in the corner. But like and share, please.
Can't see it.
Yeah, it's out of shot. Like and subscribe to us on YouTube, on Facebook, on TikTok, on Instagram, on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. Where we are on YouTube, we're everywhere. But anyway, for Travis Kirkendall, I'm Andy Van Beber, and we will have Sean Phillips back with us soon enough. And when he does, we will look forward to having him back. But have a great week. Until next time, we will see you later.
Thank you for listening to the Voice of Reason podcast. Be sure to check out our other content on Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok.